Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 400th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we are getting totally politically incorrect. Why? Just because. It's my 400th episode. It's my show, and if you've listened long enough, you know I'm really not politically incorrect anyway. I don't wear it on my sleeve, though. I don't throw things out there too blatantly about politics and whatnot, but I ran across this guy just in the last few months, and we talk about the story of how I was introduced to him by a friend online. I followed him. I bought his book. And the guy's got an interesting story, interesting evolution from his previous way of living to his current way of living, how that came about. And I think it's relevant in these times to speak your mind, but to also understand the ramifications of that. And so as long as, you're willing to do the time, then you can do the crime. If speaking out, if speaking up for yourself, if speaking out is a crime. I'm not a big fan of companies like Nike and the Colin Kaepernick stuff and all these companies, taking these political stances. The underwear you buy, the jockstrap you buy, the chicken sandwich you eat or don't eat is not brave to me. Okay? You can be brave in many other ways. The type of tennis shoes you wear is not brave. You burning your shirts is not brave. I'm not burning my Nike clothes. I may not buy any more, or I may look for other brands, that might be on sale or what have you, but I'm not going to pay a whole lot more just to avoid Nike because I don't agree with their stance. But when I see things like Gillette, who I think went way over the line with their stupid ad on men and shaving, that has backfired apparently. But I'm not going to get into all the numbers and whatnot, but they're owned by P&G, I think. And they had a big write-down on them, although the Nike stuff seemed to have helped, or the Colin Kaepernick stuff seemed to help Nike. So, okay. I've spoken about it before, the book Pendulum by Roy Williams and Michael Drew. I know both of those gentlemen. I've known Roy for many, many years. I own 5 of his books at least, and many more he's given out from other members, other speakers that he's had at the Wizard Academy. But in the book Pendulum, they talk about how society swings in predictable 40-year increments. And basically after 80 years, we're back where we started. And I've been listening to him, researching his research since 2002, roughly, and I haven't found anything to go against it. And it seems like we're right on cue with the we generation. So this stuff has been very predictable. The bad news is it doesn't really peak until 2023. And just because it peaks doesn't mean it goes away. So it will slowly start to lessen, but if we've got 3.5, 4 years till it peaks, another 3.5, 4 years before we really start to notice that it's subsiding, right? Because it's one thing to not have your toilet overflowing anymore. It's another for it to actually go down to its normal levels. So, 6, 7, 8 years at least we have of this we generation, which is indicative. You can see it manifest itself in the whole, moving from you should to you ought to, like you better, right? You better do it or else. You see it in California. I mean, it's literally illegal for a server to hand out a straw if you don't ask for it. They can literally go to jail and be fined. But meanwhile, they give out needles so you can shoot up heroin. So it's a worse crime to be carrying drug paraphernalia than a straw. And so that's when you know we're taking things to an extreme. And in an extreme, I mean, bubbles always burst. They just do. So that's why I was excited to have Jimbob on. We had a good talk about, and not just politics and things like this. I mean, I asked him about how he's made money on this, how he makes money in his regular job, and what the transition was like. So, you're in for a treat. It's, like I said, it's not maybe the typical type of interview, or at least the subject's a typical interview, but a great guy. I think you're in for a treat, regardless of which side of the aisle you come from, because he talks about being on both sides of the aisle and how he has evolved. So you're going to get something out of this, I guarantee. If you want to talk about it, come join the 30-Day Sales Growth. Would you? $49.99 a month? Give me a break. 30daysalesgrowth.com. I'm just tired of the hype. I'm tired of the fake high-dollar masterminds. I'm tired of the hype and the BS. I don't want to be a part of it. I would do this for free if I could, but I can't. But I can do it for very affordable rates. You'll spend more money on appetizers this weekend than you'll spend in this group. And that's for an entire month. And again, it's month to month, no contract. Today, yesterday, really all this week, I uploaded a ton of new content and videos, been reorganizing the flow. But there's more stuff than that you can get to in several months. You can ask questions. Every Thursday, we're on live at 10 a.m. Pacific. You can ask questions there and engage. I'll help you with email marketing, negotiation, overcoming objections, whatever. Okay? So come join us, 30daysalesgrowth.com. Now let's bring on our guest, Jimbob, the man, the myth, the legend. I have no idea what I just got myself into, but thank you for playing along, man. Welcome to the Sales Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for this book, man. So for those not watching, go check it out. So made by Jimbob. Somebody referred you to me on Facebook literally only like 4 months ago. They're like, do you know this guy? I'm like, I do not know this guy. They're like, you need to follow this guy. And I started following this guy. And this guy is you. I'm like, this is some good stuff. So you are, how would you describe yourself? A satirist, comic philosopher? Is that?
Yeah, I would take those, except I would swap philosopher with troll.
Reminds me of a History of the World. Oh, bullshit artist, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm I guess a provocateur of some sort, but again, I don't see any of the things I'm doing or saying as anything new or controversial. So I find it kind of strange that it sometimes triggers such a reaction.
Yeah, I mean, so in your book, so I just flipped through it. I keep it right here on my desk, and they're simple cartoons, but they're deep. I mean, it's, I want to be a late night talk show host, and I don't know, is this like a son talking to his father?
Yeah,
I guess he says, well, we have enough politicians.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like simple yet profound. I mean, but most people don't take the time to even ponder deeper things. But I mean, how did you, like, is this your full-time job, or are you a writer and
no, this started as a hobby, and then it started getting political. I started with cute stuff. I was a left-leaning, nihilist, not too long ago. And so, but the moment I criticized Obama in one of my memes, I got quite the reaction from my peers, and I realized that
the open-minded, love.
Oh yeah, the tolerant, tolerators. So but that was the moment. It was like when like the moment a plane takes off, the friction against the air pushes the plane up, and I realized that the leftists and people I was around were my air. They were going to push me up by resisting everything I said. So I kind of utilized that.
Interesting, huh? It's people don't understand. I spent time in the military, 2.5 years now, I've been doing jujitsu. I've studied, the art of war, Sun Tzu, talking about, jujitsu really got me interested because little bitty guys were beating my butt, and I'm like, played football and rough, tough guy. I'm like, this should not happen, but they have better form. They have better technique. They have strategy, and they use my power, my single-minded attack, approach against me. And most people never learn that, right? In business and in life, like your friends should have just kind of sat back and said, maybe, why are you doing this? Or, wow, okay, I see some valid points. Maybe I should strengthen my own arguments. Why are people so weak and shallow and timid and hateful against anyone that just doesn't agree with them 100%? What the hell's going on, man?
Well, it's an ideological clash. It's basically like the clash of beliefs and intent, and a lot of it is people have a lot of oughts. I've been looking at like logic recently, and the word ought is like a presupposed ideal that you stick into a concept or an ideology, and we ought to have equality, we ought to have diversity, all of these oughts, which ironically are coming from a group of people who are mostly atheistic and moral relativists. So it's very interesting that they have such strong moral stances on outcomes when they believe that morals are just imaginary and made up. So I think a lot of that's just all combined. I don't think most people on the left or the right don't really know deep policy. We don't spend that much time. So, it's an equal battle on each side ideologically, and what the role of government should be, and what you should force people to accept in culture. And I think it's mostly a culture war. And like, Andrew Breitbart said, politics is always downstream from culture. So the battle is over what's acceptable in culture. And from there, policy is written.
Yeah. So how was that transition from, you moved cities, you moved states, you've moved political parties, you're adding this. We didn't get into what you do full time, but I got to imagine you're wanting to transition full time into writing, into commentary, things like that. How has that transition been?
It's pretty awesome. I started with not having any intent on making money or supporting myself through drawing crude cartoons and making people upset. But eventually that's how the book started, where I was, people were saying, make a book. And then I started getting some things censored from Facebook and other platforms. And I realized the way it's easy to censor people digitally, but
right.
The old fashioned print a book, you have to burn my book to censor me. So I think it was kind of like, that was the sentiment of making a book. It was, this is physical. You hold it. You have to work a lot harder to put this down, unless a publisher refused to print it, which is probably happening now. But that was my intent with the book, and it did well. I only printed under 1,000 copies, and I have 30 left. So
right.
It did way better than I thought. I didn't do it because I thought it was going to be an income stream. It was more like, this could be on a shelf somewhere when everything's digital, and they don't allow printing books anymore because
right.
They realized that banning straws was so effective.
I know. Don't get me started. Next week when we're in Colorado, we're my wife and I are going to smuggle. We figured it out with our carry-ons and all. We can bring, I think, 17,000 straws back to California. But,
exactly.
But I hope TSA doesn't listen to this before.
Oh, that's so funny about that. I saw a meme, and it was actually true. It's like these two teenage girls invented a straw that distinguishes, date rape drugs.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And they make straws illegal. So
crazy
yeah.
times.
Yeah, and then from there, is, from one of the banned pieces, the Federalist is a publication. They wrote an article about me. And then from there, a guy at the Washington Examiner said, "Hey, you should work for Us Weekly." So I give them one tune a week, and they print it in their publication. And so that's like my start. Like that shows that I can switch over full time. And I think writing books, maybe getting into speaking. I would love to speak to young men, and just tackle nihilism. That's what I'm really into now, is like getting young men out of that relativist floating cloud of just despair and not caring, and get them, have people reunite with the idea of what a man is. I mean, it's been so diluted in our culture, and they're just trying to make all the women into men and men into women, and they're trying to break the family, and every bit of information that kids are getting hit with is against traditionalism.
Right.
So I'm pretty much here battling that, because as much as I fought it growing up and being in LA and everything, once I had my first child, I realized I was full of it, and I was a traditionalist.
Right. Interesting how that changes a human being, huh?
Oh, amazing.
So walk me through, and especially for our listeners, I have salespeople, I have entrepreneurs, people maybe with a side hustle, right? That they're trying to follow their passion, but maybe it's the 9 to 5 that it's keeping the lights on for now. How have you balanced that, and had the courage or the stamina, the motivation to build something, on the side, and to lay that groundwork to follow your true passion?
I think it comes from repetition. You have to, when people say like, he's a prolific songwriter or a prolific artist, a lot of times that word is just misinterpreted as just, he's so good or so this or so known. Really, it literally means to proliferate. So if you're going to do anything and you think you might have a chance at it and it growing, you have to start with, you can have some goals, but have your goals be, I'm doing this once a day, output once a day or twice a day, or whatever you can do, just stick to it. I started with a regimen of one cartoon a day, and that's all I did. And because I stuck to that, it started forming my opinions better. It started making my work cleaner. It started making me think about different topics and culture and politics. It had me more alert to what was going on in the world and what could be applied to my cartoons. So proliferation and reps is the best thing you can do. It can be applied to any business or endeavor that you're doing. It might not apply in the same way it applies to me, because I don't sell a product. Like I create a product, an ongoing product that's kind of myself and a reflection of what's going on, and that's the product. So my product's always changing, which is why proliferation is so important. I can't wait a week. Everything's changes, so I think whatever you're doing, just do it. Oh, another thing is, if you have a day job, the passion thing, make time for it in the morning, especially if you're creative. So the thing is, like, if you don't do it in the morning and it's the first thing you do, you will have a long day of looking forward to possibly doing it.
Yeah.
And then when you get home and you're tired, whether you have a family or not, you're going to be irritable because you still haven't done that thing. So there's all this weight of like guilt or annoyance at people around you, or so if you do everything in the morning, if you just wake up an hour earlier and just, if you want to write, if you're drawing like me, draw, whatever it is, do that thing first thing in the morning. It'll make your entire day better because you started with something fun and amazing. And then when you get home, you won't be mad at yourself and other people for being in the way of that thing.
Right. Do you run your pieces by anybody, or you're like, this is it? Hey, Washington Examiner, take it or leave it.
Yeah, I do. I run them by some people who are better at helping me like rearrange certain words or drop one word. Sometimes I can, most of the time I can do it myself, but I
Right.
like to bounce it off friends. And I
Sure.
have three older brothers that help sometimes. And so yeah, I always like to get the feedback because it could be just one little word that just changes the whole
Right.
thing. So
Right. So it's good that you're old enough that the brothers, they're not giving you noogies or wedgies anymore. Well, maybe they do, but they also give you good advice.
oh yeah, they when I was a bleeding heart liberal in LA, and I started espousing Marxism, communism, and equality, and why can't McDonald's pay everybody's health care? The money's there. So they're all more libertarian leaning. And they wouldn't let me get away with some stuff, which I credit them for being the first raft off of the sinking ship, called democratic, liberalism. And then I did float around with just classical liberalism because it's nice and safe. Like, I'm a libertarian, I'm a classical liberal. So you can't make fun of me for not being a liberal because I kind of am. And I realized that a lot of that is nonsense too. And you have to take a stronger stance in life and in culture. So
Right.
I don't know where that puts me exactly, but it's not necessarily embedded in one political party. But I know that being stagnant and tolerant and you know that kind of let everybody do what they want as long as they're not. I don't buy that either. I think you intervene, and people need to know what other people think of certain things.
Right.
For instance, like, is it hurting me directly that there are men dressing up as women who are going to libraries and doing adult theme book readings at local libraries that's being paid for on the national level? Like, no, I could actually wake up and drink my coffee and feed my kids and go to work and ignore it. But that's not what culture is. Because if you don't create your culture, someone else is going to create your culture.
Yeah. So as you were evolving in your positions, right? Was it scary? Right? Did you ever wake up and go, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my friends. Everything I know is not right. Am I even right to go down this new path? Maybe this new path is wrong." All right, is there? I
Yeah.
could see it being like this overwhelming thing, like everything I've known, and whatever age you were, 30, 35, whatever, like, holy crap, these last couple decades, I'm wrong. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It was
was it
scary.
exciting? Was it scary? Was it
Yeah.
both?
Yeah. Yeah. Coming from someone, I mean, if you look at it, someone who thinks they're totally right, it's going to be scary to be wrong and be like, whoa, everything I thought I knew was true is actually false. And that could happen again. I mean, it could, but I'm also not the same person. So uh, the person now is I could be wrong. Before it was I couldn't be wrong. Now it's not I couldn't be wrong. It's this is what I think, um, to the best of my knowledge, what is right. And so it's a different context. So I'm not afraid now, but yeah, before it was like, oh my God, all these people that I thought were my friends, you know, somewhat well-known people, like, are they going to still like me? All of this, like, vanity. It was all vanity though. And then you
Right.
realize the people that can hang with you for saying what you believe are the ones you want near. And you don't want a lot of people near, actually. You want some core awesome people near.
Yeah. Hey, everybody's trying to be too friendly and too open and blah, blah, blah. And it wears you down. And I love it. They're like, oh, I lost all these friends. It's like, fool, they were not your friends.
No,
you
there's
know, if you lost them, right? It's like, actually, a friend of mine, he's just got convicted of embezzling. And he was in my wedding. He flew to my graduation at the academy. He's the first godfather of my 7 kids. and I'm flying to Louisiana in October to be with him. I'm like, dude, it's like, I'm kind of surprised you did this. And like, this is really not good. And you really need to pay the price, but you're still my friend,
Right.
And it helps because he's owned up to it, right? He's not shying away from it. If he was playing games, I'd be like, okay, dude, I'm going to punch you in the face. But he's owning up to it. And it's like, all right, you're my friend. And we're going to see him through it, help his family get through it. But, there are others that are, running away. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't be seen with somebody, the criminal, I'm like,
Yeah.
right, those aren't your friends, man. And I guess it's good too, right? I mean, it's good to know, you probably know clearer than most people who your friends really are right now as you made that transition.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, I don't hate or dislike anybody I just see like there are people who want to tell the truth, and then there are people who are just cower to the masses. And that's like, I can't expect everyone to be like fully honest. People are afraid to even, if they even did agree with some of my stances, to even say it. Like, so they exist. It's just that they're in such a cultural climate that like, it's, we have blasphemy laws basically that aren't enforced by police, but are enforced by people.
Yeah.
And so I understand the fear, but it has to go away. Like we have to crush it by everybody saying what they believe. And so many people, if so many people say what they believe and they're straightforward with it, the mob, the imaginary online mob that nobody knows their names, who gets people fired and puts pressure on companies, they can't keep up if everyone says what they believe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean those people with hoodies and handkerchiefs across their face, sunglasses,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you saying they're not? Okay, well, I digress. But in business, just to bring it back to, the sales whisperer theme or the sales podcast theme, I mean, people need to realize that most people are sheep, right? They want to be led. They want to be told what to do and take a stand, right? Some people, you're a Ford guy. Hey, Ford's the best. Here's why. Okay. Chevy people are going to hate you. They're going to have the memes and the dude, what's his name? The comic kid is always peeing on the Chevy or peeing on the Ford. Calvin. Right. I mean, there's always going to be haters. So stop trying to please everybody.
Right. That's really it, is focus on what you have to say. Like if you're an artist, what is your stuff saying? What are you saying? I mean, I had plenty of people around me going, what do you, like I had some mentors who were like, what is this? Like You're doing some hipster, safe, cute stuff. It's like, what are you saying? What do you have to say? And once you get pushed into thinking about that, I guess it could really apply anywhere. It's like, there's a way you could sell a Ford that has nothing to do with the Ford, that has everything to do with like a way of looking at life. So I think honesty is really the key of it all. And which is funny because most people associate sales with like sort of tricksters and, slimy like manipulators and using all the tools from the conventions. But people are really, right now especially, are really craving honesty and brutal truth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Trump got elected. It doesn't matter all of those things. It doesn't matter. He said it's because he's saying what he believes is true. It doesn't matter if it's not true. It's the brutal truth, the act of a man saying what he thinks is true in a brutal fashion. It's going to change. I mean, it's changed the way everybody is talking to each other. Yes, people who are a little bit timid would be like, no, it's for the worse. Everybody's so, I think it's good. Have people say what they want. Say it. Just say it. Yeah. They'll work out how to say it better. But as long as people are saying what they believe and saying it freely and directly, it's whoever. And I thought about this is like whoever's the next president. Like I think he's going to win, but whoever's after him, after Trump, the standard of directly speaking to the people is already set. Like it's gonna, like if you look at any other politician who's doing that like passive political talk, like Congress needs to do. It's all this like it's like a
Right.
narrator talking about something, whereas he talks directly, and everyone, he's a he's got a pompous side, he's got an arrogant side, but he's speaking as himself. I'm doing this, and that's active speaking in like literature, and the next person who's a president who tries that passive stuff, it's going to be so blatantly contrast
Right.
to what we're used to. So
Right.
much that even people who oppose Trump are going to be bored.
Yeah. So I see you online. You do engage with some of your trolls. I mean, do you recommend that? Should more people, like in business, should you just ignore them? Should you delete them? You know,
Yeah, I think what I do and how I behave online uh, probably isn't uh, applicable to someone who has like a website or like a Yelp page.
yeah,
The way I respond to some trolls is not how you should respond on Yelp to an angry customer. So I'm
well,
not a.
no, man, I've seen some good ones. Uh, uh,
I'll counter them with logic or
right.
reason or fact sometimes, but sometimes I'll just call them a name and I'll just reduce my. I'll just become a seventh grader, like, and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'll own up to it, but sometimes just call, say, I gotta say, like sometimes just calling someone an old fashioned name is really
Right.
funny, especially coming from like a 38-year-old. So, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the response to that too. And my followers sometimes like it and sometimes I'll use silly things. I'll just, I'll call someone like a poo-poo face, like, or something like that's
I
so
call them meanie heads. That's my word.
exactly me. But yeah, I engage sometimes, but it's usually a trap. It's usually a
Yeah.
waste of my time. And
Yeah.
so I don't know.
I saw this one, it was like an A-frame kind of thing, like out in front of a restaurant. And it was like, come enjoy like the worst burger, ever made by mankind, according to that one guy on Yelp,
Yeah.
so they kind of turned it around and, use it to their benefit. So yeah, I mean, you can't, it's the old tar baby. I mean, you can get drugged down, but
No, you can use it though. Like I said,
sure.
with the air resistance of the plane taking off, like there's a Vice writer who hides his face and his name, and he roasted me on Twitter, and that was the beginning of my ascending into the air. And and he called me the worst account on Instagram, and I just looked at that and I was like, "Thank you," and I just wrote that on my bio for about a year and a half. She said, made by Jimbob, the worst account on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it actually helped me a lot. Like people liked it because they either agreed or they overtly disagreed. And so it created a choice.
Sure.
And so it was really effective. And I didn't mean it to be. I just was like, I didn't think of it like a method. It was just like, I'm taking that. I love the idea of being the worst account on Instagram.
Well, I've always told people, I've used this analogy. It's like Howard Stern and Rush Limbaugh. Is anybody on the fence about those guys? Right? I mean, you love them or hate them, and I tell them in business, a magnet repels just as strong as it attracts. So if you're going to take a stand and be the clear choice in some category, someone will hate you for being that clear choice in
Yes,
that
yeah,
category.
get hated. I have a meme that said, uh, one guy says, "I've never been hated," and the other guy says, as a response, "You've never been honest."
Yeah.
So the way to do it is to be honest. Like provide something. I guess it's harder to say if you're selling like bidets or like something that's just a repetitive product. It's harder to attach an idea to it. But anything you can attach an idea to, or a worldview or an ideology, risk being hated. Like the hate and the backlash may be the catalyst to your
Right.
success.
Right. Yeah. Everyone wants to quote Jesus and Martin Luther King, but nobody wants to be killed, do they?
No.
But I mean, that's what these guys did. So, You've got to take a stand. But that's why I say in business, in life, most people are sheep. They want to be led. So own it, right? Take that leadership position, and people, they will come to you like moths running to a lamp, and
Right. Yeah. It's like
to,
that's saying, the leader is the first follower.
yeah,
Like someone steps up, you say what you think, follow, like, here's what I got to say. It's the same with like if you go to a concert and nobody's dancing and
right.
then one person is dancing,
Yep.
it stays one person is dancing. It doesn't go to 10 until two other people dance, or
Right.
maybe sometimes one. And that one person who joins in against the will of the masses that aren't joining in,
Right.
they're actually the brave one, because the one person who's already dancing is already sold. They're the crazy one. They're the one who's just doing their thing. Hey, he's special. He's special. He's unique.
Mm-hmm.
So the first person to join is essentially saying, oh, hey, I'm unique. And it takes bravery to get past that mindset and just jump in. So, yeah, I mean, you got to get your first follows.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the, the airplane analogy. I mean, coming from the Air Force, we had to study all this, right? I had to take aeronautical engineering. And when I was young, I thought the plane would land with the wind. And they're like, oh, hell no. You have to land into the wind. Once you learn about drag and thrust and lift and, gravity, it's like the plane does not have to go fast over the land. The wind has to go fast over the wing, right? Once I started to analyze that, right, it's like, that's why the aircraft carriers, you get an aircraft carrier, let's say it's doing 30 miles an hour and it's cruising into a 30-mile-an-hour headwind. Well, you already got 60 miles an hour of wind coming over the plane. And if the plane needs 130 miles an hour to rotate, then you only got to accelerate 100 miles an hour. So once you start to understand all these forces, it's like things become clearer, right? They become easier.
Right.
Like stop fighting it. It's just gravity. It's physics. It's laws, thermodynamics. But people keep fighting. Like how long did it take you in that transition? You said 15 years. You were this nihilist kind of. Was it a light bulb? Was it like a weekend? Was it a 5-year process?
It was probably that one post where it was like, I drew Barack Obama, and I voted for him twice, by the way. But he was known for dropping the mic. They just hid all of his crimes through fun pop culture memes. Go sing, go on Saturday Night Live, go smile, do this. So he's always dropping the mic and being cocky. And so I just took that famous picture of him dropping the mic and I swapped the mic with a bomb. And I didn't even write a caption. I wrote a caption. I didn't write like a dialogue for him. I just wrote, this many bombs dropped or whatever. And that's when I was like still in the world of like liberalism and the left side. So what I was criticizing was his war activities. And so I didn't think people would oppose me criticizing that, but lo and behold, he was like, you're making him look bad. You can't do this. Trump is like, he's going to win. You can't do, like, it was like abandon all principles,
Right.
And so I don't know. I guess working up to that point, I was already questioning stuff. And then I was like, okay, these people are full of it.
Yeah. Well, you've got to be open to criticism, right? Like last night I watched LSU at UT. I love LSU football. I love college football in general. I love LSU. And they won, thank goodness, barely. And a friend of mine, he's like, they kept getting so-called cramps, but only one team got cramps. And it was only when, UT was moving the ball and they did it to stall the game. It should be a penalty. I was like, you're right. They did. I mean, it's like, I don't know that I would coach that way. but it's not illegal to do, but I said, yeah, that's poor discipline. It's poor. I think some of them were legitimately cramping because it was 100 degrees, and I think they were lazy in the off season, didn't come prepared. I have no problem critiquing my favorite team.
Yeah.
But that's rare. Most people are like, you suck, you're a hater.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. Well, it also makes total sense of like, companies don't get better by criticizing other companies. They analyze other companies, but they get better by criticizing themselves.
yeah,
Like the whole, anybody who's hired to analyze the internal workings of a company and to see what's wasteful, what's not useful, what's silly. It's like that's a critique that's going to give you an advantage, and but it seems like it's not necessarily the case with politics.
well,
I
how
think
do you know?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How do you know someone's worthy to critique you, right? Like, how do you choose your editors, proofreaders, critics, to look at your stuff before you publish it? Because like, it's cool that you got brothers that are engaged, but maybe they're not smart, right? Maybe they got deep-seated hate for their little brother. How do you know who you can trust to get honest feedback?
It's probably just from conversations, because my stuff, it's not like I'm not writing a manuscript that requires grammatical criticism. It's more like people I know who are in comedy or have a sense of language and how to phrase things. So they're particular, and because my stuff's unique, it's two statements at most of the time.
Yeah.
So they really have to be people who can take words away, not add stuff. So I think I purposely select people and send it to people who are about removing words and not giving me ideas, because I get tons of those. I'll get a whole day of direct messages of like, hey, I don't know if you take requests, like but yeah, and I just trust myself. Like sometimes I just won't even take the criticism.
Sure. I mean, what is your background? Because I read your stuff and I'm like, I got to sit and ponder. I'm like, holy cow. You thought of it and you wrote it concisely, and you did it satirically, and you illustrated it. And I'm like, I'm just unpacking these two sentences here, and it's going to take me half the morning. Where are you? Were you well read as a kid, as an adult?
No,
is it a gift?
I'm a terrible reader. I learned to speak late as well. Like I don't have a great vocabulary even today. So I think the ability to put realities or truths or dialectics into an image allows me to reduce my language also, and like put sentences very short and concise, and whether they're true or not is up to everyone else. But no, I don't have a background in that. I just I think I have I had a background in wanting to have something to say. So I spent so much time just saying like nonsense, like being an intellectual like wannabe. And I'm still an intellectual wannabe, but I explored principles, and now that there's like a foundation beneath me, I'm starting to play with logic and starting to look at worldviews from a wider lens than just direct left-right politics. Like I'm looking at it from a view of what are things that are presented to us as false options potentially. Like, are we not seeing things because they're so close to us? Like, can you just keep backing out? And I think it comes from a curiosity. I'm just always wondering, I'm easily led toward conspiracy theories, and that is the same thing. It's like my curiosity allows me to see something could have potentially happened a completely different way. And that's so I don't know what the source is, but I never really close off an idea
Right.
unless it's something I've tried to practice myself and realized it was bunk. Like I think that's why I abandoned socialism because I was like, wait. My dad sent me a famous quote that Yogi Berra used, but it was created by a computer programmer. It said, "In theory, there's no difference between practice and theory. In practice, there is." And so, a lot of these ideas, like these ideological utopian ideas for politics and economics, there are all these theories, and I realized I can't practice. I had called myself a socialist, and I couldn't practice it. How am I a socialist? Like I'm not. So I look at things like that too a lot. Just practice versus the theory. Like how to criticize an idea is how would you put this in practice, and will it make it sound completely ridiculous? So I've done that with a lot of things. That I've even abandoned some level of libertarianism the same way because I was like, there's a certain level of it that I can't practice. I could try to urge society or government in that direction, but I'm still full of it. I still pay the taxes. If I think the government is violating the non-aggression principle by taxing me at the threat of a gun, which I still think is wrong, if I don't respond with force, then I'm full of it. So you just have to. That's why the return to faith is also something that's highly impacted me in the last like year and a half. It was one scripture that just like obliterated that kind of like anarchy libertarianism, which was give Caesar his, and you realize that your lifelong fight can't be against men or government. It's a spiritual battle with yourself against good and evil and truth and lies. And so you give Caesar his because you're not gonna ruin your family for a stance against a system or an entity that will always replenish itself because of the nature of man.
So were you, like, I was scrolling through your Instagram. I mean, were you, or do you still, you make jewelry, right? Was that like you?
Yeah, I'm a
your main
professional
stuff?
jeweler. Yeah.
Okay. And then, but I was looking, so as best I can tell, was it January 31st, 2016 was like your first comic that you posted?
Yeah, I think one of the first main comics was a Game of Thrones meme that I thought of, drew it in bed with really crappy color like colored pencils or something, and I posted it. Here I am, this modest jewelry site, and it went super viral. It was posted by like a couple of the actors from the show,
Oh, wow.
George Takei. I was chasing it down. People were stealing it. I was trying to protect my intellectual property. Hey, that's
Oh,
my meme. And that was the first moment where I got intoxicated with like the fame or the whoa, you can be known, which is not a great way to chase. It's not a great thing to chase or base your creative endeavors on.
right.
But yeah, it started with that, and then it kept cute for a while. Like
Right.
it was very cute, intellectual parodies and things like that, and then I just had to go for the jugular at some point.
Because yeah, I was curious, because your comics are very just basic, right? And so I was like, is this guy like an intellectual and a bad comic, or is he like an artist slash intellectual? But I mean, you've got an artistic background, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Did
could.
you
I could draw very realistically and paint and
right?
stuff. So the is 50% not a choice to have really crude comics because it's about proliferation and speed.
Right.
Second, I love the idea of a crappy drawing that has a lot of content
Right.
buried into it. Like it's
Right.
a kind of like a troll on artsy people who are like, oh, his lines are all the same and thick and it's sloppy And then I'm just like, yeah, but look at the content. Like,
Right.
that's what's funny about it. And this could be applied to business. If your product, I mean, it doesn't apply to like products that are subject to quality control, like
Right.
that can actually break. But
Right.
but as far as content, you don't, if you have good content that people can interact with, then the visual aspect could be really good, but it also could be pretty bad. Like if like an old movie could be shot really poorly, but if the script is really good, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So there's an element of that, and it's not like there's one kind of like combination that works for everybody,
Right.
but it can give people some freedom to know that if their content is the thing that they got, then don't overwork or put too much resource into the visual thing if you know that that's not the thing.
Yeah, I always tell people, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I'm like, well, the Declaration of Independence, the Gettysburg Address, and the Our Father are all less than 1,000 words if you combine all three of them.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, show me one picture that conveys that message.
Right.
Right. It's like words still mean things. And, I'd message you right when I bought the book. I've had this idea for Diary of a Wimpy Salesman, like Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And, but I'm not, I guess I have an artistic gene, but I haven't developed it at all. So, I like drawing and whatever, but I'm not some skilled artist. So I keep those very simple and try to focus on the words, can drive home the point of stupid things that people do in sales. So I appreciate you keeping it simple. You've given me permission to keep my drawing very simple.
Of course, it'll be digestible if it's
right. Cool, man. Well, thanks for doing this on short notice. I think you're going to be the 400th episode. So it's my first Sunday interview.
Cool.
So thanks for making time. I'm going to link everywhere, but that people can read you on Washington Examiner, right?
Yeah, they might be able to find them. I'm actually in their print, so it's like like 40,000 copies or whatever, and that's subscription. But sometimes they post my stuff after, so I don't know if you can find it there. But I'm
linking to you.
And I have my book, Savage Means Volume 1. It's just over 30 copies left. They're signed, and if you want free shipping, it's Liberty is the code.
Okay. Very cool. And I will link to that. I'm linking to your Instagram, which is just, let me pull it up here so I got it in front of me. It's just Made by Jimbob, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm linking everywhere. Well, man, thanks for taking the time. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Wes. I appreciate the time.
All right, man. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Get started. Set goals to get work done. Write daily. Read daily. Find the rhythm. Get in the flow. Make time in the morning to create, especially if it's your side hustle. Amen to all that. I do most of my writing in the morning. It is great to get stuff done. Like Zig Ziglar would always say, if you got to eat a frog, there ain't no use staring at it. And if you got to eat more than two or more than one, eat the biggest one first. Get the hard stuff done first. People just don't do that. The successful ones do, though. Do what you don't want to do, but it needs to be done. It can only be done by you. Your writing, your creation, your creativity, your exercise, you can't outsource that. That's you. Surround yourself with good people. Okay, he's got brothers that are both good and competent, okay, that look after him, help him with his editing, his proofreading, but surround yourself with good, competent people that can help you grow. I talk about jiu-jitsu a lot. There are some guys I don't like fighting, and I've learned the reason I don't like fighting them is because they're tough, they're younger. They were either equivalent at our levels or maybe they're even a little bit below me. And so I quote unquote should be beating them, but they're younger, which plays a lot into it. And some of these guys, actually, they train in the military. So even though they're under me in our formal jiu-jitsu system, the reality is they train a bunch. And the military training doesn't count towards their jiu-jitsu formal training. But I digress. It's all excuses. These guys push me. So I've learned to channel that energy to recognize and address my own fears, worries, concern, ego, and get after it and learn from them. Because we always say, and I'm still learning this lesson, there is no failure. You either win or you learn. And every time I have a tough fight, I get with someone else to figure out the gaps in my game, the weaknesses in my game, and then I fill in those gaps. So surround yourself with someone, with people that push you. I love what he talks about, create your culture, take a stand, seek the truth. And that's where I am. I mean, next April, I'll turn 50. I don't have to kiss anybody's butt anymore. And I never really did anyway. At least I wasn't very good at it. It brought my football career to a quick end. It brought my military career to a quick end. It brought my W-2 career to an end. So, and now creating my own pathway, it's like, look, I'm going to speak the truth. And it's not my truth. It's the truth. This whole my truth, well, that's just another crap too. Okay? Words mean things. There is good and bad. There is evil and good. There is heaven and hell. There is God and the devil. So, there's not your truth. There's the truth. So, I've never bit my tongue anyway, but now I'm just proclaiming a little more vociferously. So let's get after it, right? If you want to surround yourself with people. So here's the crazy thing. I created the $49.99 program for 30-day sales growth, and people enroll. They enroll and don't come to the calls. So people that hopped on today, one guy got on and we talked. And towards the very end, another guy got on. So they basically had private consulting for $49.99 a month. Plus all the content. I uploaded another 20 videos this week from the Make Every Sale series. So all of the videos, Better Prospecting System, which stands for Bonding, Empathy, Trust, and Rapport, the 7 Deadly Sins of Selling, which I renamed as the 7 Secrets to Sales Success. So put a positive spin instead of a negative, same content. So Better Prospecting, 7 Deadly Sins, the Make Every Sale program, and the original 30-day sales growth. So I've merged all of that into one program, and all the units are now optional. And the reason I did that, because I realized you may want to jump around, and when each unit is required, you got to go through them in order. So I unlocked it so you can jump down to referrals or testimonials or goal setting or time management, working the phones, negotiation, whatever, and you can access whatever is relevant to you at this moment. And then you can ask questions in the group and ask questions on the call. And, we're so dang jaded. And I understand, because I've been burned by so many gurus and programs, just overpaid and didn't get the value. And so it's like people, they question this, I think, because of the low price. It's like, I'll probably raise the price again down the road because I can, but I don't have to. I don't want to. The only reason I would do it is so people take it a little more seriously, maybe. But I think people, I had a guy actually just yesterday, he requested to join the group. And I kind of recognized the name, but it wasn't recent that he had enrolled. And so I sent him a message. I said, hey, this is for members. You can enroll here. He says, yeah, I bought, I'm already a member. I went and looked him up. He joined in April, right? So this is September. So he bought in April. Took him almost 5 months to jump in. And he admitted, yeah, I'm one of those buyers. I buy things and I don't access it. It's like joining the gym. Just because you have a gym membership doesn't mean you're going to get into shape. You got to go to the gym. You got to eat right. You got to exercise. But I know we don't want to do the work. We don't want to be called out. We don't want to be challenged. It's like going to a golf pro and he teaches you exactly what to do to cure your slice. But because you've held the club a certain way and swung it a certain way for so long, when the pressure is on, you resort back. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And you put that same swing and you slice it, even though you know better. We do that in our lives. We do that in how we wake up, how we spend our mornings, how we spend our afternoons, how we spend our evenings. You don't want to be called out on it. And trust me, I've made all the mistakes. I've made all the excuses. I've had all the failures. I've got the scars and the scabs and the stories to tell you. So if you're tired of all of that and you're ready to get called out on your BS, for the better though, come join the group. Come hang out with me. Ask me any question. It's literally what I was put on this earth to do. It's help people figure out their own BS. And, it has always been in sales and then marketing and entrepreneurship and business and sales management. But, coming up on 50 with 7 kids, 24 years of marriage, I don't know. I know a thing or two about life. And I can help you maybe get unstuck in some of those areas as well. So come hang out, okay? 30daysalesgrowth.com. Thanks for listening. I'll go sell something.